Jews Talking Sports here on TYTSports. Ben Mankiewicz, my grandfather, and myself, Rick Strum, here to host the NFL Sports Show with you. So,
why is the type in the paper so small? Rick?
I don't know. Do you have your microscope? So the Eagles, 54-11 winners over the Chicago Bears. My lowly Chicago Bears. A lot of problems. I will get into my rant in just a moment. Firstly, Ben, when you're watching that game and you see, LeSean McCoy go for over 100 yards. Oh, yeah, and then the backup Bryce Brown goes for over 100 yards on 9 carries. Fill in the blank. The Chicago Bears defense is
pretty horrible. 27 for 248 between the two of those guys.
And
27
that was
carries.
after 2 kneel downs.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's just the running backs.
That's just the running backs.
That's just the backs.
Excuse me. Total yards, Philadelphia 514. Rushing yards 289.
Yeah,
So it was 291.
Foles and Jackson and Polk, they all had some yards
291
too.
pre kneel
Basically,
down.
just handing off to the two main backs, 27 carries, 248
But it was the
yards.
most basic play. I mean, like there was a defensive coordinator or defensive backs coach from Villanova who was tweeting. He's like, guys, come on. It's the same exact play. They were pulling Zach Ertz. They were pulling Brent Selleck.
Yeah, but if you listen to Collinsworth and Michaels, right? That was Sunday night, right? That was NBC, right?
That was like 12 hours
was
ago.
That Monday night?
Yeah.
The Eagles, they are a great running team, and they got a lot going on.
They're number one in the
runs.
league.
Yeah, they got a lot going on every play. So look, that was an example of the Chip Kelly offense working, and they are the third or the fourth team in NFL history. I can't remember whether it was 3 or 4. To get it's a peculiar stat, but to get 450 yards of offense in at least 12 games.
I'm not sure. I didn't see that.
Yeah, but that's the Patriots from 2007, then like some team from a year ago or 2 years ago, because now everybody's going to generate off. Maybe the Broncos last year. But this is their offense is performing at an elite level in most games. What's confused people is that in a few Eagles games this year, they've looked terrible.
Yeah, they have.
Like when they got shut out by the Cowboys or lost 17-3.
Or the Minnesota game.
Right, where they just all of a sudden they aren't clicking offensively. But when they are clicking, and here on the road against a defense that's been exploited before.
At home, you mean?
I'm sorry, right? The Eagles were at home, but here they are against. But you can minimize it a little because it's against a defense that has been pretty bad
historically bad.
Pretty bad.
They're 32nd against the run. Yeah. The Bears are. Yeah. So I mean that's the tail of the tape. By the way, you were talking about how Chip Kelly's offense is just rolling right now. The no huddle in the first quarter, in the first quarter when they realized, we could totally take advantage of these guys, and they did. The no huddle was working wonders for the Eagles, and that's sort of the Chip Kelly way of playing offense.
Yeah,
you do no huddles and you just keep the same defense on the field.
Yeah, I mean, they looked great, and Foles looked great, and he made a couple of really good decisions. So good. A couple of pumps were designed, but it looked to me like a couple of times he was like, no, I'll go to him. And late in plays, guys were open. I mean, the offensive line did a great job. That first touchdown to Riley Cooper, which was on 3rd and goal, and he's rolling right, and then he throws back to the middle of the field, and you think, oh, this is always a bad idea.
Yes.
But he throws it. He had such zip on that throw that it got to Cooper, and there was no one else who even had a chance to get to that ball. Like when he threw it, I was like, because I bet the under in that game. I recognized the error of my ways. I bet the over at halftime to cancel it out.
Okay,
I got out of that bet as soon as I could.
Good for you.
And I also had the Eagles in the second half over 10.5 points, which seemed like, were you just going to give me money? Like, are you just going to hand this to me?
So you canceled out one, and then you won.
Yeah, I ended up.
Good.
I ended up winning money.
All right, good. Monopoly money.
Monopoly money, right?
Yeah, of course.
Boy, one day I hope to make a real bet. But I was really impressed with that throw because it looked like it was, and I was rooting for a field goal at that point. It looked like the kind of throw that maybe was picked off. And it was just a great throw. Like he can run this offense, even though he can't really run.
He's a better athlete than people give him credit for.
He's not fast, but he can. No. But he moves around. He moves around enough in the pocket. And if you give him a big bunch of field, he'll take 7 yards and slide.
25 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in 9 starts.
Yeah, I mean that's a little flukish.
How so?
I mean that's too good a ratio. That's lucky. He won't replicate
It's
that.
too good because he's been that good.
Yeah, no, he's been great, but I mean, he's not going to go 25-2 every year. He just won't.
No. I'm not saying that, but I mean, he look.
But he
took over for Michael Vick, and he suddenly just came onto the scene. He had that horrible game against Tampa Bay, by the way, in Tampa Bay.
And Dallas before he got hurt.
And Dallas, and then that Tampa Bay game, I was like, God, this guy's terrible.
Right, he looked
awful, and then he just turned it around somehow.
So he'll get better. He's young. He started
young,
12 games in his NFL career, something like that.
By the way, LeSean McCoy leads Jamal Charles by 189 rushing yards for the rushing title. I believe the last time an Eagles running back won that was 1950.
Really?
So good for him. Good for McCoy. We you know what? What's the Dennis Green quote?
He is what we thought he is.
He
is who we thought he was.
That would be the correct way of putting it. By the way, defensive coordinator Mel Tucker, is this all on him or is it on the players? What do you think? From an outsider's perspective.
Both. I mean, obviously you got to make a change at defensive coordinator
Absolutely.
after a year like this. Or at least new scheme. He needs to try something different if they decide, if they have faith
scheme is.
to keep him. But I mean, it also reflects on the head coach. I mean, they didn't, that whatever it is, they didn't set that up right.
He's an offensive-minded coach, though. I mean, it's very hard to control both sides of the ball when he's so focused on offense.
I know, but I mean,
and this is the best offense the Bears have ever had that I've seen.
Yeah, they looked great last night. But
you know what I mean.
I'm just saying, you got to have a better. Yeah, I got it. You're an offensive-minded coach, but you have to implement the right plan for the defense and then let the right people run it, and he hasn't. So, but there is...
Out of anything, doesn't that fall on the GM, though, too, for putting the wrong guy in that position of power to control the defense on Phil Emery?
Yeah, but the head coaches are almost always allowed to hire their own coordinators. I mean, they're
except for Jason Garrett.
Except in the case of the Dallas Cowboys and maybe the Washington Redskins, but you're generally given although Shanahan certainly has, you're generally given the right to do what you like. So
certainly.
But it's that said, look, they're 8-7. Most of the league's 8-7. It's not like they've had it's a miserable year. It's just that they've got some losses there that are particularly ugly. Losing to the Eagles in Philadelphia in Week 16 isn't on its face ugly, and if this game had been
but the way it panned out,
right, even if this game had been 34-20, 31-20, we'd have been like, oh well, whatever. He lost to the Eagles, he gave it a run.
But at least they didn't give up. No, it was 100 plus yards to two different backs,
and it was over in the first quarter.
Yes, it was over. You
knew that they was done. They
slowed them down in the second quarter. Amazingly, held the Eagles to a field goal, but then it was 24-3 going into halftime. The playoff scenarios. Aaron Rodgers could potentially play against the Bears in Week 17 to knock the Bears out of the playoffs and put the Packers in the playoffs. Amazing to think that how bad the division is and how bad the Bears have been, that they could still somehow make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And they have a home game, and they'll play either against Matt Flynn or they'll play against Aaron Rodgers in his first game back in 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. At home, it's obviously winnable. If it's Rodgers, I would lean toward taking the Packers, who amazingly had a chance to win that game yesterday.
Yeah.
After all that, was a fun game to watch, that Steeler-Packer game.